Hi guys, I'm DWA on RC Groups, and I'm going to do a quick updated build video on the DJI F450 quad. When I say updated, what I mean by that is I'm going to install the new E300 tuned propulsion system onto the 450. So it should be a great match, and as well as this E300 system, I'm also going to put on the Naza V2 flight controller. The video is mainly geared towards beginners. I'm hoping that it helps a few guys out on how to set up their quad nice and easy. I'm not going to unpackage every item and show you every nut and bolt and screw. I will show you a little bit about what's in the E300 box because it's new, but I'm just going to try and stick to the basics and get right down to building.
So here's the new kit, the way it comes, pretty good. You got your 4 speed controllers and your 4 motors, all very nicely packed. And then on the bottom you have that little space there is where your tool kit goes and your instructions right here, manual. And then this box here is for your propellers, so you've got all your propellers in there. It's really nicely done, nicely put together, pretty good package. So anyway, there's that, and there's the 450 kit. A couple things I should show you real quick and go over about with the new motors though. One thing that's really nice is that DJI puts on the motor itself, you'll see some arrows, and that will indicate the direction that the propeller is going to spin. The other thing that you want to notice about the motors is that half of them, whether you have a quad, it'll be 2, and if you have a hex, it'll be 3. Half of them will have an indentation, like a center punch, on the center of the shaft right here. Okay, so that's kind of like on the Phantoms, they have that as well, and they're marked with a black dot. These motors are black, so you can't see the black dot, so it's a little harder to see, but it's there. So this motor with that indentation, you're going to notice that indentation. You're going to know that this motor takes the propellers with the black hub. Okay, that's the one that's going to spin on there. You just spin it and there it is, it's locked on. So the motors that don't have this indentation are going to be the motors that you use with the silver propellers, silver hub on the prop. Okay, but anyway, the good thing is they all come with these arrows to show you the direction, and that'll help you out in getting them mounted on your arms correctly, because the way you want to do it is your first motor, which would go to M1 if you look on the Naza Assistant, is going to be a silver hub, and M2 would be a black hub, and M3 would be silver, and then M4 would be black. The other thing to note is which screws to use. One thing that's nice, if you get the 450 or the 550 and you get the E300 tuned propulsion kit, you're going to have a lot of extra screws. So the screws you're going to use for your motors are the M3x8, and the screws you use to assemble the arms to the frame are the M2 5x5. So M2 5x5 for the frame, M3x8 for the motors. In your kit, you've got the M3x8s are on the right side, and the M2 5x5s are on the left side. There's a bunch of extra screws here in the middle for other, different kinds of projects you might want to use them for, different kind of quad, or if you're using this power distribution board and you're not using the 450 or the 550 frame, maybe you would use those screws. But I'm not going to need any of them in the build I'm going to do, because I'm just doing a standard 450. Okay, the motors, do they just go onto your arms like so? Here's one of the arms. It's going to come in the 450 kit. Nice brand new DJI red arm. You get 2 red, 2 white, or some kits will have 2 black and 2 white. You can order it either way. Anyway, you're just going to line up the holes on the bottom of your motor with the holes here. Put them in there and grab a screw and put it on. Okay, so you just do 4 of those. Make sure they're nice and tight. Make sure you're using the right ones, the M3x8 like I said. And that's it. That's how you mount your motors to your arms. So I'm going to mount my 4 motors to my arms, and then we'll get started with the next step. Okay, to make this video go a little quicker, I already did some of the work, as you can see. Basically just going to show you, when you start, you want to pre-tin all of your pads. I've already pre-tinned the 4 pads for the ESCs. I'm just going to pre-tin the main power pads now, and you can see how it's done. It's real simple. You just get your soldering iron, place it on the pad, let the pad heat up nice and good. I usually give it like a 3 or 4 second count, and then just melt your solder onto it and let go while it's still in a nice fluid state. Solder should look very shiny, not dull. If it's dull, then it's not right. You need to redo it. So there, that's good. So make sure you clean off your soldering iron. Give you a quick view. So there's all my power pads. They look pretty good. They're all nice and shiny. This speed controller is already soldered on there. I'm going to show you. I'll do a quick speed control too. I already have them all cut, so I had to cut the wires to make them a lot shorter, and I also had to pre-tin all the wires. So here's all the wires cut down and pre-tinned. So I'm going to go ahead and solder on one of the ESCs now. I'll go ahead and do this one here. We got, always make sure you have your polarity correct. You have your positive and your negative. Otherwise, you got to redo it. So everything's pre-tinned. So all you really want to do is heat them up. I get the wire heated up first, and then I heat up the. There it is. It's already on. It's done. If you do a good amount of pre-tin wire, you shouldn't really need to even add any extra. You can if you want, and sometimes I do, but it's a little tricky because you almost need like a third hand to do it. Okay, so here, now this one, I'm getting this one all warmed up now. You want to hold it steady in place after the solder has turned liquid, and then you want to make sure that you hold that wire very still while the solder is firming up into a solid. That's it. You can tug on it, pull it, make sure it's on there good and solid, which it is. So both of these are on there good. They're not coming off when I tug on them, and the solder color is nice and shiny. Alright, I'm going to do the other two, and then we'll come back, show you I've already got all my motors on. Here's the 4. So that's all done too, so moving right along. Okay, now that the speed controllers are on, this is not really an essential part, but it definitely makes your quad look a little better, and it's also easier for orientation. I'm going to put some LED lights on my quad. On the last 450 I built, I put them on after I had the whole thing assembled. And it was kind of a pain because, once this thing is all put together and you have all some electronics in here and your Naza is the middle there, it was hard to get in between the arms and such to solder the power leads for the LEDs. So I'm doing it now first, before I put the arms and all the other stuff on. Real easy, you just have a positive and a negative, and the wires are already pre-tinned, so that makes things go a lot quicker. You basically just need to get some heat to your solder here, get it in a liquid state, and then once you see that little bit of smoke there, you're getting good to go, and you just get it on there. So here's my positive lead right there. Now I'm going to do the negative. So anyway, just real quick, just wanted to show you how I was going to do my lights. It's a nice thing to have to add to the look of your 450. Okay, so the next thing I did was I mounted my Naza V2 flight controller. it's much easier to do this when your arms are not on there. You want to do this first before you bolt your arms to the bottom plate. It's important that it's mounted as close to the center as possible. I just used a really nice ruler like this where I could see through the ruler to get my precise measurements. It's also important that it's on there securely, so you want to use the 3M double-sided tape that comes with the Naza to mount that on there and make sure it's nice and secure. Okay, so now I've got my power cable soldered onto the board, so it's in there really good, really firm, 12 gauge wire. Got the connector all soldered up with the heat shrink to protect it on the ends. So at this point I've done all the stuff I should do before I go ahead and put on the arms, so that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to put on the arms. That's it. Then you just tighten it down. You can see where the wire goes, and then this wire is going to go to the outside here because I'm going to fasten the light on like that. So the wires for the lights stay on the outside, and the wire for your speed controller goes in between these two posts right here. And that's about it. I'm just going to bolt them down now. And the next step that I'm doing right now is just plugging in the speed controller servo wires to the motor ports on your Naza. So personally, I like to take the wire and thread it in between the two posts underneath here, and then bring it over to the M1, M2, M3, and M4 ports on your Naza. This front right arm is motor 1, and this front left arm is motor 2, and then back left motor 3, and back right is motor 4. So I've already plugged in 1, 2, and 3, and I'm just going to take this wire here, which is coming from my back right arm, and that is going to be my motor 4. You want to plug it in with the brown wire on the top, so it'll go in looking like this. So I'm just going to take it and plug it in right here to motor 4, and then that's it for my wires as far as the speed controllers are going. Make sure they're really plugged in there securely and all the way in, and we'll neaten up those wires later, but that's basically what you've got. Okay, let's get started. The next step we're going to install our receiver. So I use a Spectrum DX8 radio. I'm going to be using a Spectrum AR8000 receiver. It's a good receiver. One of the reasons I like to use this one is because I know it supports the failsafe, and also it has more than enough channels to do whatever I want to do, including operate a gimbal. So first thing you're going to have to do is grab these male servo to male servo wire connectors, and these are going to be going in between your receiver and your Naza unit. First thing you're going to find though is that they're keyed. Okay, so as I was saying, these wires are keyed. That means there's a little plastic like lip right here on the servo. Okay, so, and it's on both sides. It's fine. That works great with this, and it works great with other brands and manufacturers of receivers, but it doesn't work with Spectrum JR. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take your X-Acto blade, okay, and just trim off that keyed part. You know, I like to just hold the servo flat on my workbench and just use the side of the servo as a guide. Make sure you got a nice sharp blade and slide it off. There you go. So, you know, you're going to have to do that for all of them, but as you can see, it only takes a second, and it's real easy to do. And you only need to do it on one side. In fact, you should only do it on one side, The other side that's keyed, go ahead and leave it keyed, and that will go into your Naza. Okay, so after that, you know, it's just a matter of starting to plug them in. You want to have the brown wire up. So this one will be for the throttle, and it will go right here, brown wire up, like so. Alright, I'm just going to pause the video and plug all these in, and then I'll show you where they go on the Naza. Okay, I've got all my wires connected on the receiver side of the connection. So I'm going to be using throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, gear, and aux2. So the way it's going to plug into your Naza is throttle is going to go to T, aileron's going to A, elevator's going to E, rudder's going to R, and gear is going to go to U. The U channel happens to control your IOC switch, among other things, but that's one of its functions. And then your AUX2 on this receiver will go to the X2. So those are going to be our first set of connections going into the Naza. You know, you just so just grab the appropriate wire and plug it in. I'm going to pause it for this too. You don't need to see me plugging in wires. As long as you know where to plug yours in, you should be good to go. I took the throttle to the T channel, the aileron to the A channel, the elevator to the E channel, the rudder to the R, the gear on this to the U channel, and the aux2 on this receiver to the aux2 on the X2 on the Naza. So they're all plugged in. Like I said, this side you should leave them keyed, and then they'll plug in nice. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to the other plugs that you're going to be plugging in are your LED. So here's the LED module right here. Just plug straight into the top. It's also keyed, so it can only go in one way. And then the next two that you'll be connecting will be coming from your PMU, and it's the X3, which is this one, servo wire here, and then this one is the EXP. So those two will plug in. X3 is going to go right next to X2, and your EXP is going to go on top, just like the LED did. So again, it should be the brown wire side of the servo connector will be up, and then here's your EXP connector. It's also keyed, so it can only go in one way, and plug it in right there. And that's it. These are all plugged in and hooked up. The only other thing you'll be plugging in will be your GPS, and that's going to get plugged into this Naza PMU unit right here. So there's your connections. The other thing I'm going to do real quick too here is I'm going to mount my receiver. And you should mount your receiver in a good spot and mount it securely. Make sure it stays put. I like to put it in the back here, and I just use some Velcro. However, I'll tell you, I found this Velcro recently. A friend of mine actually brought some over and gave it to me. This stuff is awesome. It's by 3M. It's called Dual Lock, and it's this super sticky on the back here because it's 3M. So they make really good stuff. And what's interesting is there's no fuzzy side. They're both the whole thing is just the hard side, but these things lock in super tight and they don't move at all. There's no play in it. So highly recommend using some of this stuff right here. Okay, so after looking at my gear layout and trying to decide how I wanted to do this, I've decided that I'm gonna mount my Naza PMU V2 to the bottom of this top plate. So it's going to go on like that essentially, and then I can plug in my GPS unit, and if I want I can expand it by plugging in a CAN bus to the side here or whatever else I might need to plug in there. So anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this board, lay it on its back. I've got some of this Velcro here. I always like to prep my surfaces, even though this is a brand new kit. I've been touching it, so I usually take some rubbing alcohol and microfiber and just wipe it down real good and let it dry. And then once that evaporates and dries, now I know I have a super clean surface, and whatever I bond to it will adhere a little bit better. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my Velcro strips and put them right there, and then I will do the same. I'll put a piece of Velcro on the back of that PMU and Velcro it up. Okay, so I've got it on. So all I did was Velcro the PMU to the bottom of the top plate. As you can see, it's on there good and secure. And then I'm just going to take this plate and bolt it onto the top arms now here. And that step will be done, and we'll move on to the next one. We're getting pretty close to being done here. Okay guys, the build is pretty much complete. After I installed my PMU V2 to the underside of the back plate, all I did after that really was bolt on my plate with the screws that came with the kit and make sure they're on there nice and tight and really secure. Then after that, I put my GPS puck on there. I don't think it's a great idea to use the double-sided stick tape for that purpose. I'd rather have it bolted on there securely. So I ended up cutting off 2 of the arms from the plate and then bolting it down to these 2 right here. If you can see that, that's how I bolted it down. And I made sure on your Naza's GPS unit that the arrow is facing forward to the forward direction of flight, so that should be facing towards your red arms. Okay, after you've loaded the Naza Assistant and you've plugged your USB cable from your computer to your 450 and you've plugged in your LiPo, this is what you're going to see. You're going to come to the main page and you're going to see this blue flashing light down here. That means you're connected, and the green light is going to be powered on as well. First thing you should do is you want to go to your basic tab, and let's go check your aircraft tab first. Make sure you're in the appropriate setup. For a 450, it's going to be a quad, just like this. Next thing you're going to do is your GPS mounting. Just be sure you read these instructions here on the left pane. Check that out, read it, it'll tell you what to do. For my GPS, my X was 3 centimeters, my Y is 3, and my Z is -12. Again, if you read this thing, it'll tell you how to do it, you'll figure it out. The GPS, the Z axis is usually going to be a minus unless your GPS puck is mounted underneath your 450, and I don't know of anybody that does that. So your Z axis is always going to be a minus number. Some guys get that messed up. After that, you want to go to the RC tab. First thing you should do here in the RC tab is click what kind of receiver type you have. Mine was a Tradition, so that's what I clicked. If you have a D-Bus or a PPM, you want to click those. After you've done that, then you want to go ahead and click on Start for calibration, and you want to calibrate your sticks. After you have done your calibration of your sticks, you want to center all the sticks and make sure everything lights up green, just like mine is right now. You know, it's really simple to do. You just need to follow the instructions that are over here on this window pane right here and read what it tells you to do. Okay, if you have a gimbal set up, you're going to want to calibrate your X1. I don't have a gimbal right now, so I left that off. Most people also like to leave receiver advanced protection off as well. Okay, the next thing that a lot of guys get hung up on is this down here. This is your mode switch, and you're going to be, this is what's going to enable you to switch from GPS mode to ATTI mode to manual or ATTI or GPS. This one has a drop-down menu. You can pick what you want it to be. I'm sorry, it's either manual or ATTI or failsafe. I like to leave mine in manual. I like to fly in manual sometimes. It's also a good idea if you have a problem with your GPS or the flight controller, you can switch to manual and sometimes fly yourself out of trouble. Okay, when you're setting these up, a lot of times you'll notice that when you're flicking your mode switch, you're not falling into GPS, you're not seeing it light up blue, or you're not seeing the ATTI light up blue, or you're not seeing the manual light up blue. Reason that happens is it really is your servo trim in your gear channel, if that's the channel you have plugged in. Mine's plugged in on the gear channel. So all you got to do is go to the gear channel. I go to servo setup, and the first thing you should adjust is your sub trim. That is going to get you this middle one right here. So if you notice, if I start dialing my sub trim, now it falls out of ATTI and goes into failsafe. Well, that's not what I want, because now I cannot get into the ATTI mode. So I'm going to get it to where it's in the center of ATTI, and I'll leave it right there. Once that is set up, then you can go and go from sub trim, just go to the regular travel of your gear channel. And once you get to there, then you can start adjusting the other ones. So I'm going to switch over to GPS, and I'll show you. You do the same thing over there. You basically start adjusting that, and see it'll come off or on depending on where you're adjusting it. So you want it to be adjusted right in the middle there, okay? And then you're looking good, and you'll be fine if you're in the middle. So on mine it's about right there. That's about middle. So you do that same procedure over here for manual as well. And once you flip your mode switch and it lights up correctly, then you're set. Right now I'm in manual mode. I flip it down one, it goes to ATTI mode. I flip it down another one, and it goes to GPS. Okay, the other thing you can test out is your failsafe switch. If you've got your failsafe set up correctly, when you flick your failsafe switch, which I'll do right now, failsafe should light up. So there it goes. I went in and I hit failsafe and it lit up. Now I'm going to take it out of failsafe and it goes back to whatever mode I was in, which happened to be GPS. Okay, so that's how you set those up. This is a very important page. A lot of guys get hung up on this. It's actually pretty easy. Like I said, just read and see what it tells you to do over here and do that. Also read the manual, obviously. Next one is gains, gain settings. This is personal preference, and it's also depends on the weight of the aircraft, the type of propellers you're using, a lot of variables. On mine, I've got it set up 125, 125, 100, 100, 90, 90, and that's just for now. I may change these gains, go up or down depending on how the craft flies. I know from past experience though that these settings right here will get me a pretty good maiden flight. So that's it for the basic tab. Next thing you want to do is your advanced tab. I like to leave my motors at recommended. This is your motor idle speed. If you're having problems with your motors and they're not starting at the same time or something like that, you can switch. You can switch to a higher idle speed. Cutoff type, I like to use intelligent. Again, you can read the directions on the side here and decide what you want to do there. Okay, this is fail safe. I always hook it up with go home and landing. Some people just want it to land immediately, so just again read this side pane here on this section right here and decide what you want to do. IOC, if you want to use IOC, I use it. It's right there. You click on there to indicate that you want it to be on, and then after that you should test it out and make sure that it goes from off to course lock to home lock when you're flipping the appropriate IOC switch on your transmitter. After that, you go to your gimbal. I don't have a gimbal, so I'm leaving that. Voltage, this is where you choose if you have a 3S LiPo or a 4S, and you can calibrate it too to make sure, like you could put a voltmeter on your LiPo and make sure that it's reading the same voltage as the NASA Assistant is reading. And you can set when you want your aircraft to do what, first level of protection or second level of protection. So that's where you set your voltage. A lot of guys just turn this off and time it, so you can decide what you want to do there. The limits, if you want to have limits on, I don't like using limits. I bumped mine up, just put an extra 0 in there so that if it does, you know, trigger, I'd be way too far away for it to even bother me. So anyway, that's where you set your limits though if you want to use it. I don't really use the limits. Okay, so that's it for the advanced tabs. Next thing that's very important you do is you click on the Tools tab. It's very important right after you set up your craft that you want to do a basic calibration on your IMU. So you can click check IMU status. Even if it says it's okay, you should do a basic calibration. After that, you should click on advanced, and definitely I highly recommend doing an advanced calibration. Sometimes the software will tell you that your temperature is too high. I found that if you just click on it and it'll go through the procedure anyway. So it's up to you whether you want to try and let it cool down or whether you want to just click on it. I mean, I've been in conditions where it's been very cold and it'll still say it's too high. So anyway, that's where you do that. Upgrade, check, make sure you don't need to do any updates. Usually, you know, if you're just finished loading the software from DJI's website, you'll be good with checking this and getting everything updated. So then you can go back to your view status and just make sure everything's working properly. Make sure, like down here where you see your sticks, you know, make sure they're moving in the right directions according to what you're doing with your sticks. So, you know, and this just gives you an overall view of what you've done and set up. So I think that's about it, guys. This is how you're going to run your NASA Assistant. Oh, and by the way, after you've changed things on some of these menus, like for instance, when you change your gains, it'll be in red. You just need to hit enter, and then that will write it, and it'll save it, and it'll turn to a black print. So that's important that you make sure you write by pressing enter. And that's about it, guys. That's how you set it up. I hope this build video was helpful. If you have any questions, it's best to ask them on the 450-550 owners thread on RC groups. Please don't PM me. I get way too many PMs and the box just fills up way too fast. It would be better if you just ask on RC groups in the 450-550 owners thread. And there's a lot of guys on there that will help you out, and they know just as much as I do, if not more. So anyway, I hope this helped, guys, and good luck with your 450s.